Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and in this video, we are just gonna take a look at the different abilities for the Demon Hunter. I want to do this for every class, kind of lay them out in a format like this that is super clean and easy to break down the different things that the class has available to them. So I will be doing it not only for the Demon Hunter, but other ones in the future. But this one, we're just gonna look at the skills and try to help all of us figure out what matches our playstyle and what looks interesting as we try to decide in the next couple weeks here what class we are going to dive in the game with. So this one is going to be Demon Hunter, and let's get into it. Alrighty, and right off the top, I am working with some amazing content creators and amazing players. If you would like to be a part of crushing the game with us, I've got the links down below for you to find the Discord and all the information that you need for that. If you want to talk some Diablo Immortal and hang out with us, you are more than welcome to. But now let's dive into going over the Demon Hunter so you can get a nice breakdown of the class. So we have got a vengeful stalker, relentless vigilantes that assault from afar. Demon Hunters strike undeterred until their prey is at their mercy. So with Demon Hunter, we're going to have a choice between two different primary attacks, one being crossbow shot and one being explosive arrow. Now the crossbow shot is going to be your default one that it unlocks at level 1. These are primary abilities, so they obviously are going to have no cooldown. These are what you use regardless. Just kind of, you can always have them at your disposal to go ahead and fire them off. The crossbow shot is going to fire an arrow for damage while moving at reduced speed, and explosive arrow is going to fire an arrow that will explode on impact, hitting the target and all enemies that are near it. And these both have ultimate versions of them, where the ultimate version of crossbow shot is going to be volley, which enhances the crossbow shot for 12 seconds, causing it to launch volleys of arrows and increase your movement speed. Whereas the primary for explosive arrow is going to be bola shot, that is going to enhance explosive arrow for the same 12 seconds and replace it with explosive bolas that deal increased damage and also knock back enemies. And then I've got a couple little notes over there to the right. I do expect crossbow shot to be the more common choice of these two primary attacks, because it's going to synergize a lot better with having fluid mobility and continuing to move around. Even though the explosive arrow will technically probably help you do a little bit more AoE damage, typically the mobility sacrifice is not going to be worth it for most players in terms of what I'm kind of predicting. Of the two choices here for primary attacks, I would expect crossbow shot to be the more commonly picked one. And then we can move down to the different abilities that you're going to be able to choose from besides your primary attack. Each build will have a primary attack plus 4 abilities that you can choose from. And right off the top here, multi-shot at level 1, I've got a little green tab to the right of it. I expect multi-shot to be an extremely common choice. Multi-shot is obviously a staple in the Diablo universe with the Amazon in Diablo 2, and then it was obviously amazing in Diablo 3, super meta ability for all Demon Hunters, and I expect it to be more of the same here in Diablo Immortal. It unlocks right away at level 1, so you'll be able to have your multi-shot Demon Hunter right out the gate with a cooldown of 9 seconds. It is going to fire a barrage of arrows that deals damage to all enemies in a specific direction and has a maximum of 3 charges. So mostly par for the course if you have any sort of experience with playing archers and Demon Hunters. The multi-shot is going to kind of make sense to you. And like I said, I do expect that to be a very staple ability for many of the Demon Hunter players out there. And then next we have got the knockback shot for a little bit of control. Also unlocks at level 1 with a cooldown of 12 seconds and fires a bolt of energy that deals damage and knocks enemies back. Enemies knocked into obstacles are going to be stunned for 4 seconds. And then I've got a little note over on the right. Can be decent for keeping things away, but the Demon Hunter should already be at range, and this will probably be most common in PvP, where you're going to be at a little bit more risk and get a little bit more value out of keeping things off of you that are trying to jump on top of you to melee engage you. Next up, we have got Reign of Vengeance, which unlocks at level 2 with a cooldown of 16 seconds and is a massive volley of arrows that rain down for 4 seconds, dealing damage to all enemies in the area. And this should be a pretty generally useful damage ability that I expect to be pretty solid in most situations and synergizing with most kind of play styles of a Demon Hunter. Next up, we have got Strafe, which is a channeling ability. It's kind of like the whirlwind theme ability for a Demon Hunter. It's going to unlock at level 8 with a cooldown of 0.5 seconds, and it's going to spin rapidly while moving at a little bit of a reduced movement speed and shooting in all directions. It's going to consume energy while active and then recover energy while not in use, so you can kind of synergize when you're using it and when you are not. And I've got a note over there, deal pretty good damage but cannot be paired with using a primary attack, so I do expect Strafe to be a pretty niche use and not be extremely common. Then Daring Swing, which is a movement ability unlocking at level 18 with a cooldown of 10 seconds, using a rope to swing to a location, dealing damage to enemies that you pass along the way, and it has a maximum of 2 charges. And I expect this to be pretty commonly used to help the poor mobility of the Demon Hunter. It's one of the lower mobile, or the lesser mobile of classes in the game, and this should be a pretty tactical ability because it needs to actually be aimed precisely, and many builds will probably feature this as their way to kind of help them get around the map. Next up is Knife Trap, a damage ability that unlocks at level 24 with a cooldown of 12 seconds that places a knife trap which explodes when an enemy approaches it, shooting knives at all nearby enemies. You can have 3 traps up at a time and cannot overlap each other with a maximum of 3 charges that you can have saved up. So I think we'll see this much more in PvE as the enemies you're facing aren't as smart in terms of avoiding the traps. So it'll probably be pretty niche in PvP, but in PvE content, it could actually do some pretty good damage if you get pretty tactical and pretty skilled at when and where to place the knife traps. I could see it doing a pretty decent amount of damage. Next up, another ability that I think is going to be super common in Sentry, which deals damage and unlocks at level 28 with a cooldown of 18 seconds. And Sentry is a famous Demon Hunter ability from Diablo 3, which summons a turret for 30 seconds that deals damage to nearby enemies, can have 2 at once, and has a max of 2 charges. So I expect this to be a great choice for almost all builds of the Demon Hunter. The passive damage that is just guaranteed sitting on the map, allowing you to use the abilities and move around, is going to help it synergize with a lot of the play styles that a Demon Hunter kind of wants to embrace. So I do think Sentry will see a lot of play and a lot of different builds. Then the good old Smoke Screen, which is going to be a buff unlocking at level 38 with a cooldown of 10.8 seconds, creates a cloud of smoke at your location, concealing you and nearby allies for 2.5 seconds. During that time, the allies cannot be attacked unless they attack, thus breaking the concealing mechanic, which is a little bit unfortunate because I expect it to be a little bit more niche because of that conceal mechanic. Things like sentries and stuff can break that concealment. So a smoke screen probably not going to be super common in a lot of optimized builds. Next, we've got Spinning Chakram, which is a damage ability unlocking at level 28 with a cooldown of 18 seconds. And we're going to launch a Chakram that's going to operate kind of like a boomerang. It's going to be dealing damage on its way out, and then it's going to deal even more damage on its way back to you. And also, it is going to have a cooldown resetting upon return, but we can do that no more than 3 times in 12 seconds. And I do think this will be a pretty high damage ability in like a longer sustained fight. You got like a boss fight where you can just kind of stand in one spot and launch Chakram over and over on a perfect rotation. You could probably do a pretty decent amount of damage with this ability. Then we've got Vengeance, a staple in the Demon Hunter arsenal, and it's going to unlock at level 50 with a cooldown of 20 seconds, transforming your physicality for 6 seconds, buffing primary attacks to fire 2 additional shots for extra damage, and then also have a passive that is going to grant 3% movement speed for each nearby enemy with a max of 30%. And I do expect this to be a staple because it's probably the only self-buff option that the Demon Hunter is going to have, and we love movement speed in lots of different builds. So I do anticipate this to be very common in many different playstyles of Demon Hunter. Now, for the last 2, we have got Impale, a channel damage ability unlocking at level 41 with a cooldown of half a second, throwing knives at enemies, dealing damage to all that are caught in the fire. Impale is going to slowly consume energy while being used and then recover while you are not throwing the knives. So again, since it can't be used simultaneously with other things like primary attacks, it'll be hard to get consistent value out of this and keep a good flow as a Demon Hunter. Even though it can probably do a decent amount of damage, you may see builds that either choose the Chakram or the Impale, whichever one they have better things to synergize with. So I don't anticipate it to be super common, but it can technically do a pretty good amount of damage if you could sit there and just channel the Impales. And then lastly, we have got Escape, which is a control/dash unlocking at level 44 with a cooldown of 8 seconds. We're going to jab a blade forward for damage. That is also going to cause a reduced movement speed for 4 seconds. And then while we kind of jab that knife forward, the Demon Hunter is going to tumble back to kind of create some space. So I don't think this will be super common in PvE because you're not going to be like up in the fray and then like sliding back and going back up into the fray. But I could see maybe a build in PvP or something where you've just got to be able to create that space so you don't die when enemies are trying to jump on top of you or something. So maybe some niche usage, but probably not super common. So alrighty, that will do it for our look at the abilities for the Demon Hunter, and I'm going to get working on the other classes so I can do them as well on the channel. So make sure you click the subscribe button down below because you're not going to want to miss that. We are going to crank out like 30 something videos before the release of this game here in the next couple weeks. And then also the Discord server, if you want to be a part of a team that is going to absolutely be crushing it on launch, make sure you check that out as well. And feel free to DM me on Discord if you need anything. I am here for you to do everything I can to help out and kind of help us all play the game together and crush it. So that'll do it for me on this one, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Peace.